Welcome back to J&A's Book Review.
It's Jennifer
and Andrea.
And today we're going to be talking about a short story written in 1884 by French writer Guy de Maupassant.
To give a quick summary,
the story begins with a young lady named Matilda who comes from poverty herself but actually wishes to have a lot of wealth and to have a rich husband. However, eventually she just has to settle down for a simple office clerk. Her husband, Mr. Loisel, gets an invitation to a very fancy party that a lot of rich people go to. However, the wife, she freaks out. She doesn't know what she's gonna wear. She doesn't have any fancy dresses or any fancy jewelry.
So her husband selflessly gives her his life savings so she can go out and buy a fancy dress. Now, of course, since she does not typically wear nice things, she does not have any jewelry or accessories to match her fancy dress. So she goes out and asks her friend, Madame Forrester, to borrow a pretty diamond necklace, which she wears to the party and has a great time, enjoys herself. But as soon as they return home, she realizes that the necklace has gone missing.
The couple went into a jewelry store in order to find the exact replica of the necklace that was lost. However, when they found it, it was extremely expensive, too expensive for them to afford. So it caused them to go into an extreme debt.
In order to pay back the debt, Mr. and Mrs. Loisel found themselves working for their entire life in order to pay back the $36,000 that they did not have at the time. Later on in Mrs. Loisel's life, she ran into Madame Forrester, who let her borrow the necklace, and she then explained to her all the hardships that her and her husband have endured throughout their entire life just to pay back the debt that they owed. Madame Forrester explained to her that the necklace was indeed a fake and it was only worth $500. So in case you guys didn't quite catch the significance of the name The Necklace, it comes from the borrowed necklace that caused so much devastation throughout the couple's lives.
Period. I personally really enjoyed the story. I appreciated the amount of detail that was included in the story, and I really loved how there was even a little bit of suspense thrown up in there.
I agree with you, Jennifer. I think that it really taught you a life lesson. They would not have had to endure such hardships if they would have just been who they were. In fact, my favorite quote is when Mrs. Loisel said, "Could I borrow that? Just that and nothing else?" I felt as if it really showed how desperate she was to be something that she wasn't.
My personal favorite quote was when the narrator said, "Instead of being delighted as her husband had hoped, she tossed the invitation peevishly onto the table and muttered, 'What earthly use is that to me?'" I really feel that this quote just really shows how inconsiderate that Madame Loisel was towards her husband, because her husband was really trying so hard to do something that would make her happy finally.
Jennifer and I's favorite quote is when Madame Forrester said, "Oh, my poor Matilda, but it was only an imitation necklace. It couldn't have been worth much more than 500 francs. This showed a very surprising ending because as you were reading, you weren't expecting that ending, were you?
Situational irony at its finest. Period. We asked you guys to tweet us any questions that you may have had about the story.
The first question comes from BrandyIsTheBomb.com. She said, "I'm having trouble identifying the author's tone. Please help. As a tone can be perceived many different ways depending on who you are. I perceive the tone as the author is very uncompassionate because of the way he decides to write the character Miss Loisel. He writes her as being this selfish, arrogant woman who gets her husband into a lot of debt just because she wanted to be something that she is not."
Hey guys, we're back. So the second question comes from Brianna. She says, Today in my English class, we started talking about literary techniques, and I was so confused. Can you help clear it up? For sure. So, if you don't know, literary techniques / devices are different techniques that an author will use to help add more depth to their piece of work. So, that can be juxtaposition, hyperbole, oxymoron, the list goes on and on and on. So just to give some examples, since we're talking about the necklace, foreshadowing. So when the jeweler says, "I didn't sell that necklace, madame," when he's selling it to her, he knows that he didn't sell that necklace to someone else because that is not the necklace that was originally Miss Forrester's. Another example of a literary technique used in the necklace is symbolism. So the fake necklace symbolizes Madame Loisel's fake luxury that she had because she didn't actually have it. She's really just poor. But everyone thought that she had a lot of riches and was very luxurious. And also, remember when we were talking about situational irony, that's another example of a literary technique, when you weren't really expecting for the necklace to be fake.
And the next question comes from Jessica 907444188. She says, "Can you guys talk about the theme? I'm conflicted." So as I was saying before about the tone, it can be perceived as many different things depending on who you are. The way I perceive the message is, don't ever try to be something you're not, because only bad can come out of it. She would never had to go through such a hard life if she just tried to own up to who she was and be proud of who she was as a person.
Alright, you guys, that wraps up all the questions that we have for today.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, leave a comment down below, and give us a follow on Twitter. Hope you guys enjoyed. Bye!